Alright, 7th graders, it's me, Mr. Allard again, with our flipped lessons. So today we're going to be talking about early migration theories, or kind of ideas about how early natives got to North and South America. Alright, so we should have our chart right here. We're going to start with land bridge theory. We're going to go right down when, where, why, how, when, where, how, and why. We're going to go to coastal migration, same thing. We're going to go to eastern migration theory, same thing. Alright, here we go. Let's get this rock and roll. Alright, so land bridge theory. The land bridge theory states that about 17,000 years ago, people started moving across the land bridge from Asia and reaching North America. How do we know this? Well, what we do is this thing called carbon dating. And what carbon dating is you can find bones or artifacts, and you can find the carbon inside them and use that to kind of date relatively how old they are. So we know roughly starting about 17,000 years ago, that's when we have found fossils supporting this theory. Does that mean that people may have started 25,000 years ago? They might have. We're not exactly sure yet. We'll kind of, if we find that, we'll readjust the data to get there. But we know the land bridge started somewhere around 17,000 years ago. All right. The theory states that during this time period, 17,000 years ago, may have heard of this before, or we talk about it as the Ice Age. Now, not the Ice Age movies, don't get it confused with that. There wasn't like talking animals and things like that moving around. But one of the things that was true about the movie is the fact that most of the Earth was covered, in fact, by glaciers and ice. As a matter of fact, where we are in present-day New York was covered by snow and ice. And I don't mean like a little bit snow of ice. I mean like 5,000 to 10,000 feet of snow and ice. That was how cold it was on the Earth. So what that did is it kind of sucked up and used all the water, which meant the sea levels were much, much lower than they are today. So if you were in 100 feet of water in the ocean today, during the Ice Age, you might be on dry land. That's kind of how much the water lowered. So this created what we call the land bridge between Asia and Alaska that was between two glaciers. So basically, how did people get from Asia to North America? They walked. And it took a long time. We're not talking like days and weeks and years. We're talking hundreds and in some cases thousands of years to make their way from present-day Alaska to populate areas as far south as Chile, according to land bridge theory. All right, let me get the video out of the way. So how are they doing this? Early natives were walking across the land. All right, the low water levels, as we talked about in the last one, kind of exposed the land, making a bridge between now Alaska and Asia, which present day is covered by ocean water. All right, why were they moving? If you've heard the terms fast food, early humans were what we call hunters and gatherers, and they had to follow their food. There was no going to grocery stores. There was no going to the local McDonald's to pick up a bite to eat. If you were getting meat, you were getting them from the rather large animals of the time period. Woolly mammoths, maybe an occasional saber-toothed tiger. There was some forms of early bison around and things like that. But these animals moved, so early humans moved with them. Now, this shows them using spears and things like that, which occasionally they did, but lots of times when they were hunting woolly mammoths, early humans were trying to run them off cliffs and things like that because these were very, very large animals, and technology at the time period was not that great. We're using wood tools, we're using stone tools, and as a matter of fact, this was a very, very dangerous hunting expedition to take down a woolly mammoth. However, if you did take down a woolly mammoth, you're eating for a long time because they are providing you with literally tons of meat because they are very, very large animals. All right, that's going to lead us into coastal migration theory, and I kind of like this map because it kind of compares the two for you. You can see in the blue here, that's your land bridge theory, right? We're going right through. There's a nice little spot through the glaciers so that people could get down and around. Coastal migration theory is happening a little bit later, 14,000 years ago, is when we find the first kind of archaeological evidence or historical evidence to support a coastal migration theory. In a coastal migration theory, let me go back. Suggests that instead of using the land bridge, what people were doing is they were going down the Pacific coastline of North America, using ships and things like that. Using ships or not really ships, they would be kind of boats, kind of glorified canoes during this time period, to make their way down the Pacific coastline. And you can kind of see on your map there, one of the reasons why we say kind of 14,000 years ago is that's when we get our first archaeological evidence around Oregon and places like that that suggest that there was human activity along the coastline. All right. How are they getting there? This is a concept we're going to talk a lot about in 8th grade, the idea of island hopping. So the early humans were not venturing that far from shore. They did not have, at least our evidence suggests, they probably did not have what we would call ocean-going vessels. So they were probably staying relatively close to shore, going island to island or sailing a little bit, then going to land to find food. Staying there until they can find food, and then moving out. Some would stay and create communities in certain locations. But as you can see from kind of the purple line down here, you're going to see that they were kind of traversing all the way down until from North America up here, all the way down into South America as well. So what were they doing? Much like the early humans on the land bridge theory, they're following their food. In this case, they're following different food. All right, if you're staying along the coast, you're following seafood. Now, they're probably not eating too many polar bears and things like that, but seals, walruses, whales, fish, those are definitely fair game. Seabirds would be another one. Probably some crabs, clams, things like that they can catch near the shore as well. And as they kind of, one of the things that we know about early humans is they weren't very good conservationists, meaning they would kind of eat everything in sight when they found it because they wouldn't know when their next meal is coming, and then they'd have to move on to find their next meal. Eastern migration theory. So this is kind of a new one that has come up, and the land bridge theory has been widely used to explain our early human migrations. The coastal theory is relatively new, and the Eastern migration theory is one of the newest ideas. And you can see that located with number 3, this Atlantic coastal route. All right, and so our archaeological evidence suggests about 25,000 years ago for the Eastern migration theory. All right, let me move out of the way of the map here. There we go. Where are they going? They're going along the coastline between North America and Europe. Now, again, because a lot of the world is glaciers, this really isn't ocean that we're used to today. As you can kind of see on the map, you have a very large ice sheet that is covering most of Canada, most of western New York, pretty much all the way down almost to present-day New York City. And that is going off into what is present-day ocean as well. So they're going to be staying pretty close to that ice sheet as they navigate their way westward. All right, same idea as with early with the eastern coast mode. They're going to be kind of using island hopping or land hopping, using small boats to move across the coastline, travel a little bit, hunt for a few days or weeks or maybe even months to find food. And the reason why a lot of people are saying, well, why aren't they staying once they come to the north, is because those are ice sheets. You're not going to really live on an ice sheet. So they're going until they can find land, somewhere to create homes, somewhere to create, communities where they can kind of settle and do hunting and maybe even do a little bit of farming to kind of help provide for food. Trying to kind of hard to get out of the way of maps here. We'll go here. So Eastern migration theory, kind of the same reasons as coastal migration theory. All right, they're following their food sources. This is a time again of hunting and gathering. They're following migratory patterns of their food. Lots of seals, lots of birds, lots of fish, because they're hugging that coastline. All right. Well, that should do it for our flip lesson for tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message on Schoology. Be prepared tomorrow to have a discussion about kind of seeing which of these theories kind of best explains how early people got here, or maybe even if maybe they kind of all do. All right. Talk to you later.